Just, I've always been asked, just as for everybody here, just for the person who does the minutes for us, just so we can all say our name, so she can put in record who's here. So I'll just go around the table.
Roger Peterson, Waterways.
Kent Drusella, Waterways Committee.
Larry Broody, Waterways.
Dan Casey, Waterways.
John Harker, Harbor.
Daniel Hall, Waterways.
Jeff Lang, resident. Charlie Agro, BSE consulting.
Stephanie Sequin, Ryder Wilcox.
Brian Chanette.
Thank you very much. So first order would be the attendance. And the minutes for the last meeting, which was in November, so we missed December. Everyone have a chance to review those? Anyone need a minute?
Still on the agenda?
No, I printed mine own.
Black hole in this table.
Yeah.
Leave that for signature when you guys are ready. Pleasure.
Minutes look good. Make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Second, Kent? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Minutes carried. Sign them. Forget.
I'm not. I can take my eyes off of them.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Nothing on the consent agenda. Open forum. Anything for open forum?
Yes, the Wi-Fi for the marina is fixed. They replaced all the heads everywhere, so that's good news for all marina users. The splash page, don't know what that means, but the splash page is in the works. Basically, I think it's their login page
Yeah.
where we'll have, it'll be password protected so that marina users aren't getting overwhelmed by everyone else visiting. It is a commodity that's for the marina users and not just the public. So that's up and running. Come take a look at it. Lower your ladder when you're going down the pier because they do kind of face out for their directional spread. But happy to say that it's repaired. It's done. They were looking for it to be above freezing a couple of days because they were out there for about 8 hours replacing it. So that's done. And then I guess if there's nothing else, we could just see if there's any questions about the revenue. Again, it can't really look at 1 year to the next how things, we receive bills at different times. You know, last year the parking lot we had $0. This year it was $7,000 just because that's when the bills came in. So
Does everyone have a copy of the revenue report?
but all in all, everything's pretty much the exact same. We're on par. Again, bills just come in at different times. Everything's good with the harbor and the revenue.
Electric bill will go through the roof.
Electric bill is an issue. Yeah. It's an issue that we're having. Just what we've budgeted for and what the cost will be. Due to rate increases by the state, and then we actually have a lot more winter transients.
Let's say now that froze 8 weeks early.
Yeah. So we have a lot more people there because a lot of people could had trouble getting hauled out and finding somewhere to actually go. So that's a benefit for us. But then the electric cost isn't equal to the electric charge that we charge. The charge is much less. But we'll figure that out.
Well, it's nice to see those delivery trucks show up with that electric. You get that delivery charge.
True.
That's nice.
But I don't have anything else.
You use $10, you get charged $400 for delivery. Just, you good with that, Dan?
Yep.
All right, so essentially we're just on to old business.
Yeah, I flipped it this week or this month so we could concentrate on new business after listening to old business and not having them listen to our discussion on the proposed fee increases. I hope that's all right with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's welcome to stay if you want, but we kind of flipped it a little bit. So if you didn't want to stay and listen to the banter and everything else, you're free to go after, whatever you may be here for. So just try and help facilitate everyone. We made that change. So first up would be the 19 Walker Woods Road Drive new dock construction. Come on up.
All right, let's start the banter. Does everyone have a copy of the plan?
I have copies here. Does someone want
I've got the next one. Okay.
And this is there's one for you.
Yep.
The narrative's here too, if anyone needs that, Kenny.
Good evening, I'm Stephanie Sequin, I'm an engineer with Ryder and Wilcox, and I'm representing John and Deborah Duart, who are the owners of the property at 19 Walker Woods Drive. It's a 2.5 acre lot on Walker's Pond, which is a great pond. They have a little over 400 feet of frontage on the pond. They recently completed construction of a new dwelling, parking, pool, patio, all outside of the 100-foot buffer to the pond. They did receive permission from the Conservation Commission to clear a path from the back of the house through the woods down to the water's edge. As part of that approval, they also have permission to install some kayak racks outside of the 50-foot buffer. So that's all been taken care of. And what's being proposed now is a seasonal removable aluminum pier, which will be constructed or installed at the end of the existing path and will extend out into the water approximately 57 feet beyond the ordinary high water mark. The pier will be, it's simply, we're not proposing any kind of a float, just a 4-foot wide walkway to allow them to get out into water that's deep enough so that they could launch a kayak or paddleboard or whatever. I've got the specifications and details of the pier on the plan. As I said, it is 4 feet wide, constructed of 5 10-foot aluminum sections that have adjustable legs so they can be adjusted for the different depths of water. They have pads on the bottoms of the legs that sit on the bottom of the pond. Don't require any sort of piles to be driven, so it helps with the seasonal removal and installation. We did soundings, and the pier extends far enough into the pond so we have 2.5 feet of water at the deepest end of the structure. So I think it meets all the design requirements of the Conservation Commission regulations. We did have a meeting with the Conservation Commission 2 weeks ago, I think, and they reviewed the plan, had no problems with it, and are simply holding off on approving it until it gets approved by this board, hopefully tonight. I think that's all I have to say on that.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll just hand it over to Harbor Master if he has any problems with this project.
No, we meet with conservation probably like a week and a half before all these meetings, and we did it in December in regards to 19 Walker Woods. And Stephanie has been here before. She was here
came
in November.
Yeah.
So we have seen this before. There was a slight modification. Talked to conservation, talked to Stephanie too with Department of Natural Resources. We have no problems with it in our huddle that we had. So pass the recommendation.
Good. Stephanie, you have anything to? No? Okay.
Paul.
Hand it over to the committee. Any questions, concerns?
Just one quick question, just to make, cause you had said the kayak rack was gonna be outside of the 50-foot buffer. The narration says the kayak rack is gonna be outside the 100-foot buffer.
Where does it say that in the
And the
narrative?
narrative here, just, yep, on the second to last paragraph, all watercraft,
What's the date on the narrative too?
December 1, 225.
That's the most recent one.
All watercraft are to be stored either in the approved kayak racks outside of the 100-foot buffer or on the pier. So,
I didn't know if you were talking about the kayak rack being, you said,
No.
verbally you said it was gonna be outside of the 50-foot buffer.
the kayak racks are outside of the 50-foot buffer.
Okay.
So any kayaks will either be stored on the racks
Okay.
or outside of the buffer, outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, when they're not on the rack. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
I'm glad someone reads that. Makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. It's not just for the ink's purpose.
One of our favorite questions, where are you gonna store the docks? Not that it pertains to us,
I
but is there,
don't have an answer to that. I did specify either on the plan, either off-site or
Right.
outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Walker Pond doesn't have any, motor boats, or there's no motorized boats on it, it's
No.
electric or whatever, no. Yeah.
Board.
I love it. I'll move to accept the plan, job number 4697 for 19 Walker Woods Drive in Harwich, dated 12/1/25.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Plan carries.
Do I sign two or just one?
We get two signed.
That's not it, though.
No, that's not one.
20th. 20th?
Yeah.
It's 21st.
Today is the 21st.
First. I lost a day.
Here, I'll leave.
Change my 0 to a 1, man.
Sorry for the month delay.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, there was no one was around.
Oh, that's that time of the year, I guess.
We got more papers than we do pins.
I got another one.
That's for you.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Yep.
Thank you.
It doesn't get any better.
Put a little oil on that. Squeaking bit.
Need some spit. All right, moving on to 32 Tunes Road, dock reconstruction.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Burgess of Schaefer Consulting. And so we were here before you, and the first iteration didn't have any problems with this group. And when I went to conservation afterwards, their primary concern was to try to raise the elevated walkway higher over the marsh. the original plan had it ramped down. So this is close, so they wanted to see this raised up. And so I did that. A couple of results of that decision in the design mean that, so this is up higher now. I brought it back. Well, this ramp section is a little shorter than it was in the other one, but this is the same, and this drops down to the new height of the pier. So now, before we said we were just going to leave those piles in place and unbolt it and raise it up a foot. Can't do that anymore. So those piles will need to be replaced, but in the same holes. So you pull the old ones out, push longer ones in, bolt it. That part's fine for the pier section. The public access stairs that were in the marsh, we don't need them anymore because they have 5 feet over the marsh. So that structure, it's not there now, but it won't be there. So it was in the plan, now it comes out. So there's no structure in the marsh. They liked that. So the other consequence of raising it up, of course, is the ramp steepness. And we're running into this now because the docks get higher and higher, but the water stays the same. So, but even with a 20-foot ramp, the ramps get steep, and we just had to modify a dock for that reason. So, the original ramp angle is in magenta, so you can see that I've pretty closely matched the ramp angle with a 20-foot ramp. Now, we were going to use a 12.5-foot wide float. That was the one that was permitted. 12.5 by 16 or something. It was exactly 200 square feet. What we decided to do now is change that to a 10 by 20, but the 10-foot is on the landward side. So the landward side of the float moves 2.5 feet seaward. The seaward side doesn't move. It's right where it was permitted, right where it was licensed. So you just have a 10 by 20 float. That allowed me to lengthen the ramp to 20 feet to keep the angle down. So these are the consequences of some of these decisions. For you guys, it's not going out any further in the waterway than it was originally designed. The commission likes the fact that the float is narrower now, 2.5 feet. It gives us about 2 or 3 inches more clearance on the landward side. One of their suggestions at the meeting was they're going to condition it so that no boats are docked on the landward side of the float. That really is all it is, but they wanted me to come back before you, since it is different in your area of jurisdiction or interest. But the outcome is de minimis to what your concerns would be, and the only piles that need to be moved would be the float piles, because it was originally, float pile was back here, now the float's going to be narrower, so we do have to relocate 2 of the float piles, about 2.5 feet seaward. Those are permanent.
Which ones are those again? Your
Here's-
very end ones, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the very end ones, because it was a 12.5-foot float anchored to the same pile.
Yeah.
But now we're keeping it out here, but going to 10 foot, so this has to shift. Other than that, all the other piles go in the same holes. And then the landward ones are wherever they end up. That is a summary of the changes.
Can I ask a silly question?
No such thing as a silly
Absolutely.
question, but go ahead.
Just looking at like the property lines for the actual walkway,
Yeah,
you're pretty close to, I know it's being reconstructed. Do you have to go, do you require a special permit for rebuilding a pre-existing non-conforming structure, or?
I haven't had to do that ever in Harwich. But yeah, this is the funkiest property line I've ever seen.
I mean, you
in my
see
life.
you're, what, a foot off the property line?
Something like that, yeah. It's the strangest property line I've ever seen. When you go out there, this is all beach grass and everything, you'd think the lines would just go straight.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who dreamed it up, but it's weird.
I mean, it doesn't matter until it matters someday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's the only reason I ask, but.
Well, it makes sense to put it where it was.
Yeah.
And it's being raised up. If you've been out there, it's at grade.
I mean, whoever drew the property lines was smart to leave, what, 20 feet of frontage on the
Right.
water? Like, good on them.
I don't even know how you get there from here. I mean, this guy has got plenty of frontage. Why couldn't they just take this line and go here, you know? I don't know. who knows who dreamed these up, but, and it's land courted, I believe, so it's just funky. Yeah, land courted. Who'd have thought?
Anything else? Any other questions, concerns?
No.
Oh, and we did go back to conservation with this plan, and they're fine with it. And we had a little powwow with Amy and Harbor Master and Stephanie, and they were aware. Amy made it aware that I'd already been there, so the conservation was cool with it the way it is. Also,
Yeah, I mean, it's already been before us, just no real big changes.
No, there wasn't really any, it was more the pile movements and the ramp.
It's not going on any further, it's not.
No, but the order of condition that conservation is gonna put in
Well, we
place,
have to
so you
sign
saw
the
it
latest
all.
plan, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but was that the seaward side mooring, no landward side mooring on that dock, or on the sides of it?
Sides.
Yeah, just because of like running aground and things like the water over there. But no, besides that, everything, like Mark said, we already talked about it.
You go with it?
Yep.
Making a motion to accept the revised plan.
Project SC 276, revised 12/4/25.
Okay.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so Roger makes a motion to a plan, the project SC 275 dated 12/4/2025. It's a 5, right?
6.
We'll start that one.
I'm sorry. That's a 6?
Yeah.
No, that's a
AutoCAD
5.
Really? If you had to read my handwriting, you would question it, but it's a 6.
Oh, that
Where
font.
is it?
SC 27.
276.
Wow.
You can just
Grab
say
my glasses.
I think my cheaters. SC 276.
yeah.
We should vote on it.
We are. I don't get. I didn't even got in a second yet. Oh, you did? Well, we were trying to discuss for the 5 or 6. So.
You were using your bifocals.
Yeah. Second by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Carries. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Rangers.
Thank you, sir.
Progressively get worse. I write prescriptions, I can do whatever you need. Yep. Yeah, let me review it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's like reading.
Yep.
See you sometime. Don't know when.
Thank you. I'm ready.
All right. Next up is 11 River Bend dock relocation.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
It's Charlie Agro with the PSC Group presenting on behalf of the owner, Jeff Lang, who's in attendance. This project was presented before the committee back in November and approved. It was brought to our attention in our notice of intent filing that where the float was relocated to, being over the lot line of lot 10 and lot 10, or lot 9 and lot 10 is shown on the plan here. Lot 10, I guess some of the abutters have rights to moor a vessel within that lot, which was kind of new news. So after some back and forth with the abutters, we've decided to move the float back so that it wasn't over the lot line, and now it's located just offshore of lot 9 without being over the line of lot 10. So We moved it back 12 feet in doing that. It did slightly change the dredge volume from 70 cubic yards to 98 cubic yards. And just for the sake of keeping it short, if anybody has any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them.
Is there any setbacks from a lot line on a dock, or?
25 feet usually. Or
both properties.
Oh.
yeah, he
It's
owns the
just an
property.
easement
Okay.
that, and I'm not sure what an easement for a mooring is.
And how do you just carry that through that lot line? Like
I just made it straight across so it comes in about a foot if you project that seaward.
to project it on the same angle?
Yes, just on the same angle.
Does that affect any of the,
No,
any of the dock or?
yeah, so basically that provides the area along the bulkhead of lot 10 here for his abutters. I believe it's 3 abutters that have rights to moor a vessel. So it allows those abutters to moor a vessel anywhere within that wedge along the bulkhead. We're further, for the sake of the waterways, we are further in from the public channel, so we're kind of further out of the way. So I think for that, it's an improvement there.
All right. I think I'll just start to hand this over to John first.
Yeah, there's an increase in the dredge material, as we know, and as was noted. One of the things that we discussed last time you all were here, and I didn't break one out because I already have one out, didn't want to scatter the table too much, was the discussion on and the determination and the order conditions for where the dredge material, how the dredging was gonna be conducted, and where the dredge material is gonna go. And there will be, as we're working with conservation, a time of year restriction, an order condition on dredging. So we're not gonna have dredging happen without prior approval from Waterways and from the Harbor Master Department and Conservation, of course, and Department of Natural Resource. But moreover, in times of year, like the summer and things like that. So as noted here, it just says predetermined, be determined by the contractor and approved engineer as is the disposal. Do we have information, and we would like to have that added in there about notification to the Harbor Master Department in coordination with?
Yeah, typically before any work is done within the wetlands or wetland buffer, you have a pre-construction meeting with the conservation agent. If it's on a harbor, the harbor master, and we can, at that point, the contractor would, or ahead of that, the contractor would provide their means and methods for dredging, which would be approved by us, submitted to you guys before the pre-construction meeting. We could discuss that further. For a project like this, such a small volume, I think it makes sense for a contractor to come in on a barge, dredge the material, place it in a scow or containment basin of some kind that's on the barge itself, keep everything on the barge and just take it out of there. But if a contractor bids on the project, has a better means and methods for cheaper, then, by all means, we'll entertain it.
I think from the waterways, and especially in my perspective, it's where the barge is going to be located. This is such a choke point area, especially in any time of season when the moorings are there. And then furthermore, where is the dredge material going to be go? I don't want to work off of assumptions anymore with contractors as to where dredge material is going to go, because there's only such time frames and such locations that are approved by the town that we're going to allow dredge material to be offloaded.
Yeah, I mean, a contractor like Robert B. Hour, they have a upland containment facility, so if they brought their barge in from New Bedford, they could take all the material back with them. If they sail in from New Bedford,
we're trying to talk. We're trying to talk for the contractors at that point. Like right now, we're trying to talk for them. And
well, anybody that has that puts in a bid will have to put in a bid that meets the permit and the regulations and requirements with that. So at the end of the day, the dredge material will have to go to an approved upland facility. It's not going offshore, and wherever that facility may be, the contractor may even have a site that's already approved, or they can present one to us, which then we would provide the information to the town.
Okay. Pre-construction meetings are usually like a 24-hour, 48-hour prior to meeting.
Yeah.
That's way too late.
Yeah.
Because usually staging has already happened.
Yeah.
So we'd like to see in the construction notes that the harbor master and Department of Natural Resource departments will be notified
Yeah, we could
prior
certainly
to,
put that together, yeah.
because we've had
Well,
some.
do we need that on the plan? Is that, I think that's where we're going with this.
Yeah, we want that on the plan. That's something that's been on the plans before. We
I
mentioned.
thought
it
that's
last
what we
meeting,
kinda had
too.
on the last one.
We've had it on all of them going.
Yeah, I think we came up with a condition the last time it was here, and we were totally okay with whatever that decision would be.
Yeah.
And I guess whatever, I mean, again, typically with these dredge projects, that's what would happen. Either the material would stay on the barge, or it would be a temporary containment area maybe set up on the upland part of the property, which we're not even proposing here. So that's basically what would happen. It would go to an offland or site such as a contractor's disposal area, Child's, that doesn't really have anything to do with the town or the harbor where it ends up. It's a pre-approved disposal site by the state.
So John, just to interject, I understand where you're going. Is there proper language you'd like to see on all submitted plans? And is there a way that we can provide that to the applicants to give them that heads up so we can eliminate them waiting another month to come back for us to
Yeah.
just simply approve?
No, we're working on that with conservation on creating an order of condition that kind of blankets
That whole
what
thing.
what the expectation is.
Just to not waste
and-
everybody's time.
Yeah, but
you
it's
know?
it's really just more, we just want to have the harbor master, like, because if these plans are passed on or it goes to a different person, we want to make sure that the harbor and the waterways and Department of Natural Resource are notified as to when this happens. We want to be in a more of a proactive state with this than a reactive.
Yeah,
as
and we
have
will
been.
be like this. This is a permitting plan issued for permitting, not for construction.
Yeah.
And in our narrative, our notice of intent, there's a lot more information than this. It doesn't really fit on the plan. So maybe we could submit whatever plan is going out to the bidders. We'll be sending out invitations to bid a few months before construction. We'll have final plans by then. We can submit them to the town if something like that works.
Yeah.
2 months ahead of dredging or something like that.
And we are, like I said, it's
You know what I mean? That way it just
no,
eliminates that one step
Yeah,
for
yeah.
everybody.
It takes a couple more steps to get that.
To get there.
Yeah, to get there.
Alright, so you're fine with the verbiage?
I'm fine with the actual construction. Everything looks great, and they've been, we understand too that this work is going to happen, as we talked about in the last meeting.
Right.
This work's going to happen outside the channel, so it shouldn't affect there. We just want to make sure that the barge and everything else is, the movement of it and when it's placed there in time of year.
And
all
when
that kind of
when it's gone, by the time you're putting moorings in.
stuff. Absolutely.
This would probably be a day or two of work. They'd come in, maybe one day, go to sleep, and then show up the next morning and knock it out and be out of there.
And the off.
October, November, whenever everybody's out of there.
Anything, Stephanie?
No, just a clarifying question. I think the only thing that changed from the last plans that were already signed off by Waterways Committee was just the
The location of the floats, yeah, we moved it 12 feet and slightly modified the dredge footprint.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything from the committee? Anybody in the audience? Please say your name first.
Noreen Cahalan. On the dredging, can you put something in your orders that there's no dredging between Memorial Day and Labor Day? Last year, there was dredging 4th of July weekend, and barges and dredging equipment were there for weeks, like 3 weeks, a month, in the Heron River, which is crazy. So can you have it in all your things when you approve it? No dredging between Memorial Day and Labor Day?
That's exactly what I mentioned before. That's what I'm working on with conservation, so we can be in concert together and with Department of Natural Resources and have.
Okay.
I
I mean, can you have it in this plan?
I can't say, well, it will be in effect prior to, so. But I will say, like, I won't be, and I think I can speak for Amy in conservation, we won't be blanketing it and say absolutely nothing. But we'll have to have somewhat of a special approval to be done during that time, so we don't have an incident like that before.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should blanket it personally. I mean, why would you allow dredging between Memorial Day and Labor Day? That's the busiest time,
It's location dependent.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, because a lot of the, other things conservation does, or the zoning board of appeals, they put that in there.
But those are added conditions. They're not blanket for everything. They're added for each special permit or variance or whatever.
And the other thing on this project, just an FYI, you know, it was never permitted, the float or the dock, you know, so it's new. Like, it was never a permanent thing, so it's not really an existing one, it's a new one. So,
Absolutely. But no, we are working on that. It was a discussion that we had in December when we actually all got together with Amy, letting her know that this was forthcoming.
thank you.
Yeah, and
Stephanie,
Mr. Chair,
yes?
and just since it relates to this project and in response, John's done a really good job of working with whoever bids on it and is for the project for construction, and it's something that whether it's this plan or any other plan, Harbor Master, Department of Natural Resources, there are several plans. If you're wondering sort of how that happened, obviously as a resident, there's several plans that have been approved prior to our working for the town, so sometimes they come up and that's part of the reason for changing the process. And so one of the ways we've been able to navigate that is by John having incredibly proactive communication with the existing project. So another step towards that, because obviously we're having these types of conversations now, but just for context for anybody else that's curious, is we've requested from Conservation a list of projects that are in that limbo where they weren't approved maybe by the people sitting here right now, and they're not going through this process, but they've already been approved maybe in the last 3 years or so and might be coming up for construction, so we don't get, you know, a phone call to our office 24 hours before that there's, or from a resident that there's a barge already there, so
We called.
Yeah, yes,
I mean,
thank you.
yeah.
But that's,
But anything going forward, I mean, if you
Yeah,
can put
and
in the
then-
conditions that, you know, it doesn't happen
And
during that
some of
time
the-
period.
yeah, some of the conservation, I think the only thing to note is, and for this project in particular too, and any project, would be that some of the time of year restrictions do overlap with that time frame, so it's not necessarily needed to have that sort of duplicated when the time of year restrictions for dredging that are mandated by the state do restrict that in some capacity as well. But definitely, we don't want stuff in there first.
Anything, everybody else?
That dredge wasn't related to anything over here, right? Yeah.
No, it was a dock project, but
Okay.
they needed to move it for the 4th of July.
Got it.
Anything from anybody else? Any other concerns, questions?
So do we make it, you know, with the concerns that you have on here, we don't have to include anything in the motion to accept this plan contingent upon, okay, this plan as is in front of us
yeah.
is
Because I have to put the order of conditions
Is
in
it
place.
acceptable?
Yeah.
And I'll make a motion to accept the plan at 11 River Bend. What do we got here? Dates, job number is 100684.02. Looking for a date.
12/30.
12/30/25.
Can I get a
You know,
second?
after,
Love
so
it.
I think the dock will probably
I'll go to Roger.
take place, maybe this spring, just relocating that.
All in favor?
Aye. Probably the following fall, not even, just wait for chapter 91 and water quality takes about a year or so. It'd probably be the fall of 2027 for the dredging.
Just make sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good time frame when these things go out to bid, you know, right when we send them out to bid, we can send them out to you guys, you know, here's the final
Everyone wants
construction
to
plans, if
dredge
you
in
guys
fall.
wanna, yeah. Well, that's kind of where that time of year thing, it's a little tough, because everybody's fighting over the same dredge for the same time of year restriction.
Absolutely.
Harwich is one of the few towns that can dredge with the county in the summertime, the beaches can take the material. Isn't it, Sagatucket was recently dredged right around the summertime a couple of years back, or it was like late into May, I think they were out there.
I don't think willingly.
No, it wasn't ideal.
Yeah, it's
Definitely not ideal.
because they missed.
2 dredges everybody's fighting over.
I think was it
It's always
Allen?
down, and
That is
maybe it
not
was
right.
Allen.
It was Allen.
Yeah, our Allen Harbor was really late.
Did everyone get? I think so.
Great, thank you all very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Sleep at the wheel.
Did you go?
Yeah.
Alright, that's it for old business, right?
Yes, sir.
New business. Alright, so I'll start off, if you all are ready, talk about fee increase.
Let's do it.
Alright, so timing was a little tricky for this in regards to communicating with you all and communicating with the select board. I was approached by the town administration through the select board request to come up with some proposals for a fee increase. And that was in November, and then we kind of had, which saddled from our November meeting to our December. So it happened right in between there, and it was short fuse where I had to do a presentation after that in the beginning of December. So what I started off with doing was looking back at how it was done before by John, and what was the frequency, what was the kind of the methodology, if you want to say, like pretty much saying like what was the increase intervals, and everyone got the PowerPoint, correct? Okay. I'm actually going to be jumping back and forth in between the PowerPoint I provided you and the PowerPoint that I'm going to be providing to the public hearing next Monday. So in 2018, there was a increase. Now remember, the increases kind of started having a bit of a cadence post construction for a revenue increase or a revenue, steady kind of like a pace. So in 2018, there was an increase of 10%. And the 10% was looked at as, and it gets very confusing, and I kind of want to step away from the narrative that I originally presented, where it was a 2% increase per year. It kind of gets confusing. I know Mark and I talked about it a little bit with the select board too. 10% was kind of representative though of the span of time in between the last increase and the first increase. So furthermore, the next increase that happened was 8% in 2021. So that kind of represents the time frame again in between, but then moreover the time frame that would be going forward. So theoretically, we should have had another increase in 2025. It was something that was kind of brought to my attention, but I timed it out when I first got to the harbor, saying, right now I wasn't going to try to push this going forward in the spring of 2025. I wanted to kind of get here and get acclimated a little bit more and understand. So the proposal that I did now is getting back on, again, that kind of schedule, get back on to comparatively looking what other towns were doing. That was a very, very large analysis. So we spent about 2 weeks going through every town. And the problem with that was it was really difficult to take our schedule of fees, which we have 64 different fees in Appendix B in our harbor management plan, to take those and try to go to a Falmouth, or take those and try to go to a Barnstable or a Wellfleet or Orleans, and even furthermore, length of vessels or categories of vessels or transients times or commercial versus ferry. It's just apples to oranges all over the place. There's no way to do it. So we did our best. We created a huge spreadsheet with every single town and a comparison on each, and we really went down to the nitty-gritty, and we found the best way to kind of portray this and to show you all, to show the public and show the board, was to take 2 categories basically, for moorings and for slips. So for the moorings we used, for the slips we used 30-foot slips, and then we use that as like a comparison model going forward. So we used 30-foot slips, and we looked at Barnstable where they charge for around 30-foot slips, because theirs is a little bit different too. They don't go with 30 to 40 like we do, and then so on and so forth for all the towns. And then for moorings, we did 24 feet.
It's preying on me. Yeah.
Actually, you're the first one, no.
Absolutely.
But we were looking at that because those are broken up too. It's a 0 to 24 and then above. So we looked at those for the mooring too and did a comparison. And that was our initial my initial, delivery to the board was, hey, these are the numbers. And as you can see in the presentation that I sent you all on pages 3 and 4, it shows recreational and it shows moorings, and it shows actually these are with a 10% increase already added. So if you look at where we land, that's not off the historical fee amount. So their length overall times whatever the fee is, that's actually with the increased 10%. So at that comparatively, we were still below average compared to other towns. The second sheet I should go, or the third sheet I should go back. If you're looking at this one right here, that spreadsheet, that showed the cost difference for all the different slips, and then the 27 rate, which showed what the 10% increase would be. So how many boats we had, which also equaling the amount of square footage those boats would accumulate. Now what's tough with these two, and I don't want to get into this too granularly because there's a lot of details in how we analyze this, but the cost that you're going to see or that revenue increase that you're going to see is only off the slip minimum. So a 20-foot slip, you can have up to 24 feet. A 30-foot slip, right? It keeps going up, 40, 48, 50, 64. So we did the minimum, so we know that those revenues are going to be more. There's not that many slips where you're going to have somebody that's an 18-footer and a 20. And even if they're an 18-footer and a 20, they have to pay the slip minimum, if that makes sense. So went forward to the board on December 6th, I believe, 8th, and presented them with this information. Now, one of the things that I did present to the board was how are we going to look at the schedule of fees and who is it going to be applicable to, or what fees are it's going to be applicable to. So for starters, per Mass General Law, I don't have the exact Mass General Law in front of me. You basically can't do, and then there was a question on bifurcation between resident / taxpayer or non-resident / non-taxpayer. And Mass General Law prohibits you to do any kind of discrimination, is their word, in between the two for moorings. Slips, though, that's why you're going to see in some towns like Falmouth and Barnstable, you're going to see in, I believe, Chatham too, you're going to see a difference in between taxpayer, non-taxpayer, resident, and non-resident. It's the labeling we'll get into later, but so I went to the board and I also asked who is this applied to. My suggestion was not to make any rate for those two different rates for the commercial side of the house to kind of keep them out of it. So we agreed on that. So the two proposals that they wanted to hear back from me was using your proposal A, being that the 10% blanketed across 48 of the 64 fees. So I don't know if you were able to look at some of those fees in that appendix. A lot of them were electrical, things of that sort. Some of them are going to be a little bit more than 10% because we rounded up, so we went down in the cents or anything like that. And then the second ask for proposal was, what would it look like from a revenue standpoint from a taxpayer versus non-taxpayer rate increase on the recreational slip community, and that's it. So all the rest of the fees, and as you will see, I actually brought a hand up to show you all.
So you can't have a non-resident electric rate. Electric rate is electric rate.
That's just too much.
No, I agree.
I would, I don't know if Michelle would stick around. So that's what I did, and I came back to on the 5th with that proposal, and with that proposal, the presentation was, what does the revenue look like? What's the revenue difference in between the 10% blanketed across everybody and the 10% for the 44 out of 64, excluding the recreational slips, with a 15% non-taxpayer and a 5% taxpayer. And I'll go into that again. We were all able to kind of look at this graph too and get a better composition understanding of the harbor. I would say and I did say this to the select board, if you look at the recreational slip composition, recreational taxpayer versus non-taxpayer, that's only off the information that we have in our systems. I don't know how valid that is. Someone could have a Canton address but at home and they're paying taxes in Harwich, or vice versa. So I assume that taxpayer is gonna go higher and the non-taxpayer is gonna go a little bit lower. And that's exactly what I communicated to the select board as well.
Excuse me, John, quick question. How many taxpayer slips are there and how many non-taxpayer are there?
Oh, Brian, I don't know if I have that exact number. I think it's 97 and 79.
And that's based off the information the
Based off the
department has.
information that I have, but
Not
yeah, I don't have the exact.
So like a 60-40.
It's a, well, yeah, in the information in the packet we provide, it's a 45-55 split right now, off of what we have in our information at the harbor. So, if we go through a little bit more of the packet that I sent you, you'll see in that appendix B, the crossouts on the side show what the original rate is and what the 10% increase would be. And then on the last summary part of the slide that I provided, it talks about what those increases would be. And so it's really a total, and you're not gonna see again a whole lot from the moorings because there's just not as much moorings cost-wise, right? The cost for a mooring isn't nearly as much as what you're gonna be paying for a slip. And then furthermore, all the other fees added up with the 10%, it was another 45,000. So we were really looking at, when I redid the calculations incorporating, because this first presentation was just Saquatucket Harbor, when I added in Witchmere and Allen, our revenue increase in between the two, regardless if it's just the blanketed 10% or the 10% with the 44 out of 64 rates and the 5 and 15% increase, it's about $135,000 to $150,000 annually for an increase in revenue. As I presented at the last meeting with the select board, the difference in between the two is only $1,940, and that was on the lesser side for the taxpayer versus non-taxpayer rate. There's another one here. Let me hand this out. This is another graphic for you guys to look at. If I didn't bring it.
Is the taxpayer versus non-taxpayer rate an initiative to kind of match like the user fees for golf course and other things, or is it kind of to align with, do the other towns charge like that as well? They get like just Chatham for, I know the shellfish licenses for a taxpayer versus a non-taxpayer are significantly different. But is it push towards that to get there, or is it to really just maximize potential revenue?
Well, you had a couple questions there. Is our analysis or our methodology the same as like the golf and other ones? No.
Okay.
No, because what we're doing is we're actually, and I'll get to this part, and it's on this section here, which is going to be going in front of the public hearing as well. You'll have to annually show proof of being a taxpayer. So everybody's going to be charged 15% that has a slip off the bat. And then there has to be an annual verification where a 10% discount will then be proofed onto your bill afterwards.
So like a beach sticker?
Yes, but where we will have to have a tax bill.
I got you.
Different departments, sometimes different towns too, will say a driver's license or a utility bill. We need to see the tax paying verification.
Gotcha.
And it's easier easier is not the right word. It streamlines and it creates a lot of an easier, I guess easier is the word, process when it comes down to verification and actually cataloging who's a taxpayer if we have to do it annually. Who's to say that someone doesn't sell a property? We can't just go off of historical data that we have in there. So what I passed around was a graphic that made it into the December packet for or the earlier January packet that didn't make it into yours.
I have a question since we have a select board
Yeah.
member here. On the big scope of all of this, running around collecting all this stuff, what is the goal? What is the achievement that the select board wants the harbor to produce? Do they want it to produce a profit? I mean, do they want it to produce a profit? Do they want it to pay for itself? Do they want to have taxpayers that are in there being subsidized a little bit because they're already paying taxes? To start with the big picture, why you're trying to get
So,
to.
it's not supposed to be making a profit, the harbor, though.
Okay, so
We-
do you
we
have,
provide-
so
we
then
provide
you start,
revenue.
so why wouldn't you start with what your expenses are? What are your
Exactly.
total
It should work out
expenses
backwards.
are?
What your cost is.
And then
why.
develop your price schedule. What difference does it make what Falmouth? I mean,
Exactly.
everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
What their costs are, what their expenses are, what
They all have
maintenance,
different operating
what
costs.
they're dredging, whatever they go through. I don't understand why you compare to another town that has nothing to
Nothing to
do
do with
with it.
us.
It should be take your expense, the goal is to break even. If that's what the select board
That's right.
wants the department to do, then take your your gross expenses, come up with your revenue, and make it zero out. But I don't understand all this chasing around of all this other stuff. Why wouldn't you just start with, how much does it cost us to operate the entire system?
Yeah, well,
And then
there
the
was,
health insurance has always been an issue because it's not added to the harbor. It's
So
like
you're
in
questioning
different
the
funds,
methodology.
Like all the health.
Yeah, it's kind of questioning the select board why they're trying to ask you
To do all the
to
legwork.
do all
here.
of this stuff that has nothing to do with anything but make them happy.
Yeah.
I think they're
doing that.
wrong in what they're asking you to do. I think it should be a hell of a lot simpler process of doing this than all this stuff. Well, they charge this and we got a 28-foot boat and we're in a 24-foot slip and we gotta charge another $20 and all this other stuff. Why don't you just we got 500 boats or 5,000 boats in the entire system. And this is what we can generate in income, and this is what our expenses are, and if we need to raise the rates to make those 5,000 boats cover the cost to operate, then that's what you base it on. But all this other stuff is just kind of ridiculous to me.
well, I mean, I appreciate those comments, but I do have to kind of get back to the public that has made comments that came to these meetings, some of them asking like, could there be a taxpayer versus non-taxpayer for your third point there that you made about, if I'm already paying taxes in the town, should there be a mechanism to have this particular,
But that's basing it on your cost and then what your revenue is, and then say, fine, we'll raise the rates, an extra 2% or 3%, so that we can offer a 5% discount to a proven taxpayer. You prove to us that you're here, you're paying taxes, whether it's second home, third home, whatever. You're paying taxes, then we give you a discount.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me like there's a whole lot of wasted time and effort that the select board asks you to do, that I think there's a much easier way of coming to the resolution of the problem than, Falmouth charges this and that, and then Chatham's over here, because occupancy is 100%, right? Start with 100%. So there is no chasing of lost revenue. You're right. I mean, as far as where it's coming from, it's 100%. So why don't you just simply take that amount of revenue from a mooring versus a slip versus this and that and the other thing, and bring it all into one kitty and say, all right, now we got $2 million sitting here. Okay, and it's costing us 1.9 million to operate, whatever the numbers come into. But I don't, the rest of this stuff, it's kind of.
You gotta increase every year to, 3% to keep up. with
Yeah,
inflation.
because instead of
Salary
chasing every 5
increases.
years, we're gonna raise it 10% because it's 2% a year. It's like, that's not how it goes. We just raise it 2% every year, and that's what it is. Because you got people standing in line waiting for it.
Yeah.
It's not like
yeah,
if somebody
100%.
leaves, you're gonna lose the revenue from it.
Is the reason for delaying rate increases every 5 years just because of the process and it has to go in front of the select board and all that stuff? So you can't just blanket and say,
That is-
we're going to.
Yeah, that is
consideration.
A
in
definite
the
consideration.
project.
I mean,
Well, that's if you're comparing it to other towns and all this other.
Well, you don't
gas
wanna
around.
do this every year.
no, and that's typically not the scheduling, and that's what, you're gonna see from these town departments, no other department's doing an increase every year.
Yeah.
People do it for that reason, where it's an expectation of cost. That's another reason why I didn't wanna do a 2% every year. If I can tell somebody
They know it's coming, yeah.
this is what your bill's gonna be, and this is what it's gonna be for the next 5 years,
That's
people
great.
plan for
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, but
And
if
honestly,
if you raise it 2% every year, and then once every 5 years you did an audit, and you went back and every 5 years you did an analysis of what your expenses are versus what your income is and what's coming in from it, then you do it once every 5 years to analyze that, and then you can base, whether you've been appropriate or inappropriate, and this year we're only gonna raise it 1%, or we don't need to raise it, what, it just seems to me like it's a lot of.
well, our model,
Wasted
yeah,
energy.
our model is not to do it every year, and that's the input that I got from others in the
Well, I
community.
just said, I'd give you a way not to do it every year,
Yeah.
but you have a fixed increase, everybody knows there's an increase. I mean, it's better than getting hit with a 10% increase after 5 years, somebody getting surprised by it,
Yeah.
if they get a 2%, you don't even notice it.
And this increase, let's just say, there's nothing that says another increase has to happen in 5 years. I mean, this is the increase that we're saying right now that would be implemented to complement, the expenses that we've had, and to complement really where we see kind of a ceiling for the expenses that are happening and the cost that it is to be in the marina. I mean, the cost comparison, to your point, it may seem irrelevant, but it does show and paint a picture as to comparatively what we're seeing
Well,
across
yeah,
the
it's
Cape.
FYI, it's just for informational
Yeah.
purposes, but it's not, I wouldn't base your rates on what Falmouth is charging or what
I-
Brewster's charging.
No, I didn't, and that
No,
wasn't
I don't
my,
mean you.
yeah.
I'm going back to the select board, I think they're inappropriate.
But my
wrong,
recommendations to them was, I didn't have,
I know, you're
ceiling
starting
I
from
was trying to
zero, you're
reach.
starting from
Yeah.
zero, you're getting educated.
Yeah.
But I think the process is, why don't you just base it on, if it's not to make if it's just to pay for itself, the whole process, the whole system, then you gotta know what your costs are. And you can make assumption and guesses and whatever, people coming and going and health insurance and everything else, but, I just think that's my
I
opinion.
mean, as you know, there's a lot of associated costs that go with the harbor.
Absolutely, there's
So we
surprises and there's,
dredgings.
you gotta have a contingency fund and you gotta have a fund to take care of seawalls.
Well, that's what I was on a question, but Dan, go
I
ahead.
have a question for Mark, so, like, the water department is an enterprise fund, correct?
I believe, yes, it is.
And this goes all to the general fund, and the harbor subsidizes the community center. Right?
Well, if we're making a profit, we are.
Portion.
But what is the
only-
goal to?
Only a
That's my
portion.
point, is
To make a
the
profit,
goal
or
to
are
make
we,
a
are we to
profit?
subsidize everything in town that it's not run properly?
Right, is it, but it goes into the general fund, it
No,
just goes
but if
out.
you're a creative administrator, you figure out how to spend the money you make for the improvements.
Right,
We do have.
but it should be a separate
Remember,
fund.
we do have
Absolutely.
two funds that are
It's an
supplied
enterprise fund.
through waterways fees.
You don't wanna get
more-
penalized.
Yeah, but that the waterways fees had to be created, so you could have appropriational funds at your discretion to use for the harbor, because all the other money was going to a general fund.
That's a
Yes.
line item in the
Yes,
budget, that's just a line item in the
So
budget.
you to be creative within the harbor,
be
you're to
creative.
create a subsidy, almost a secondary income, so you could actually have working capital.
They have some,
Yeah, but that's the waterways user fees.
right.
Yes,
So,
I was just
went
trying
back
to
to-
answer your question, that not all money goes directly back
Yeah.
into the general fund, that we do have those two funds.
why not just raise the waterways user fees?
That is part of the 10% raise.
so that was all part of like the Downey property purchase to do the Marina Rover, right, with the pizza joint was and all that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing is that, my concern is that, if the harbor makes more money, well, does the harbor retain that money?
That's what the goal was.
That's the goals, cause then if the harbor could actually pay for its own,
Well, why did you get to do all the docks over? Because they were never maintained.
Maintained. And when people that do complain about not going down to the harbor, that the docks are too wonky or this and that, but they didn't wanna pay for them anyway, so then you still had to go before the town to get appropriations for that. So if the harbor could actually pay for repairs on its own entity opposed to going for the town, that would also be beneficial to the town. It's a catch-22. I mean, it really is.
The select board doesn't like that.
No.
They don't, they wanna be in control of
Yes,
the
they
money.
do.
Can I ask you a question? Just as far as the other town fees go, cause we run into this at, you know, using public places for private enterprise to make money. I know you don't wanna squash the little guy as far as the charter boats, the commercial guys, the mooring service agents. I mean, we charge a mooring service agent $242 to have ultimate control over every single one. Yes, we approve the fees, but that's a ton of money that is available to make for $240. I understand they have to meet certain requirements and all that other stuff. I mean, you know, I'm not saying charging 20 grand to make 20 grand, but that's a drop in the bucket to make a ton of money. Same thing with, you know, charter boats and all that. I mean, they're for-profit people using all of the facilities that we are paying for.
True.
Well, they're paying for it too.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
taxpayer, they're not just getting it for nothing.
No, but we're paying for it to have a mooring ball, not to run. I mean, I'm bringing 2 guests on my boat on a Saturday. They're bringing 10 people on their boat every single day. And it's more just the wear and tear on all the facilities, bathrooms, trash, all the incremental costs of everything. Just a,
No,
you know,
I
it's
mean,
a small group of income with a big expense.
That's
If you
been going
want
on
to
for
dial
100
into it.
100 years though. That's not a new entity and a new process. That's been going on.
Absolutely.
So
But-
it's not it's built into the system.
But it's the guy who plays 300 rounds of golf at Cranberry and complains that it went from $800 to $820. You know what I mean? Like,
You can play as many, if he pays, you can take your boat in and out as many times as you want if you pay for a slip. Okay?
no, I gotta
You
pay to
can-
use a ramp.
No,
I can't do
If
that.
you have a slip, you
No.
can take your boat in and out as many times as you want out of that.
I have to pay to get a ramp fee. I gotta pay $20 to put it in and out. If I have
I
a slip.
said if you have
If I have a slip, I still pay a ramp fee. Yeah, I do.
Wait, by the pass?
I think he means from the dock.
He just means from the.
Oh, from the dock. Oh,
A slip.
Yeah. I thought you meant pull my boat out. I got
No,
you.
if you pay for a slip, you can take it in and out as many times as you
I
want.
know. You're being a curmudgeon old
You know,
man.
you can smash into that dock as many times as you want to.
All right, let's get back on track.
I'm gonna
So-
break
Anyhow, I'm talking
I know
about
what
this
you're-
stuff, it just seems to
Well,
be
anyways,
a backward process.
the public hearing will be taking place on the 26th. So one of the things that I wanted to come to you all about was showing you, kind of mapping out for you where this is, how this started, where we came from, the data we did analysis on that were provided to the select board, and the final recommendations are still going forward with either the blanketed 10% over the 48 scheduled fees or the 10% over 44, and then doing the taxpayer versus non-taxpayer with the verbiage added to receive the 10% taxpayer discount credit, proof of Harwich property ownership, current property tax bill, along with any other supporting documents, must be submitted annually and received by the office by December 1st.
So I guess I don't wanna cut you off real quick, but I think what's before us is that do we decide to recommend a blanketed 10% fee increase all the way around, or we split it 5 and 15 with, you have to show that you are a taxpayer.
My question is, the price difference looked enough. Is it worth the administrative fees that you're gonna do to have to go through all that? To have that kind of, what is that gonna cost in like Michelle's time? And
I'll buy her breakfast a lot. No, it's the time. It's so going back to 5 years versus every year, huge difference, because that, from an administrative standpoint, to do it annually and go in and change, big problem. The 15% right off the bat, if you don't come in and provide us your bill by December 1st, that's an administrative help for us as well versus trying to go into the system and verify if this person's an actual citizens or not, or if they've moved or not, excuse me, a taxpayer or not. So the administrative side, we're already kind of mapping that out. It's not gonna be a huge burden. It's just more running these through and readjusting, and I think the biggest administrative burden will be just receiving all of those tax verifications prior to December 1st.
How much revenue does that push the needle, John?
The
Taxpayer versus non-taxpayer.
the difference is
That's it.
$1,940 projected. Probably a little bit more, but there's no big difference in between the blanketed 10% or the 10% excluding the recreational slips at the 15 and 5. Less than 2,000 off my initial analysis.
And all the other increases are the other 60 something.
Yeah, the other increases are just, you know, like waterway user fee and electrical and T permits and stuff like that. Those are all 10%.
So it really doesn't push the needle much.
No, but it provides taxpayers a 5% increase. A 5% increase provides non-taxpayers a 15% increase.
Well, or you can say it's a 10% decrease. We're getting 10% off.
Correct.
That sounds a little better.
My message packaging has been a different direction.
You know what I mean?
So what's the net cost? Gonna be 5% on top of
Yeah.
that?
So if you're a recreational slip owner in
So
Harwich and a taxpayer,
if you're a Harwich taxpayer, your slip will go up 5% if you can prove that you're a taxpayer.
Every year or?
Every year by December 1st. That's when the bills are due.
And none of these rate increases are gonna take effect till 2027.
They will be in effect after the public hearing.
So the ones that have already paid for this.
You've already paid, you're fine. Yeah.
Right.
Boy, I better get my money in.
I just asked a quick question. Did you say the rates will go up 5% per year?
No.
I think you were referring to.
It's 5% for the next 5 years, but it's so essentially like 1% for the next 5 years. So it's a total of 5%.
For 5 years, so 1%
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
No, it's the
Mr.
same
Chair,
number
It's
every
just
year.
5% this year. It's going to be the
Same
same
number.
5% next year. It's going to be the same 5%.
Yeah.
It's not
The
going to
same
be.
number.
If I
It's
could,
the same,
Yeah,
same
yeah.
dollar number.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
rate.
Stephanie?
John said every year. I think maybe that was confusing because I heard you say it. think
Yeah, I
you
was
said
confused with
every
that a
year.
couple times
You
too.
said 5%, but I think John was referring to providing proof of real estate tax
Every-
to
payment
get the
every
discount.
year
Yeah.
to get the 5% discount every year. So it's not that it would go up 5% every year, but if John,
You gotta verify
saying
to
that correctly.
get
No,
I
qualified.
think
yeah.
it was just like the language, cause it was used in the same sentence maybe,
Yeah.
when he said.
Yeah, because I was a little
provide
confused in those public hearings. I'm
5%
like, wait a minute, what?
every year.
But
So
even if you, but
it's-
all right, but hang
yeah.
on, you're gonna. This is, I think. Now this
So-
could just be what's in my mind too.
No, it's confusing.
If you move, you don't
So
get the
just let me
5%
just,
anymore.
yeah. So you go in, you charge the extra 15%.
Dan Hall gets his bill in end of
And it's up-
October.
it's
and
up
it's gonna be-
15.
It's going to be for 15% more than what he paid this year.
Right. So the verbiage should be you get a 10% discount if you're a taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not,
So
yeah, but no,
It's
that
a lot
5%.
simpler and easier that way.
Yeah, you get a 10%.
So in the harbor management plan,
It's a
appendix
buy-in
B,
program. You buy into the discount.
let me finish.
program.
In the appendix, it'll read, and this will be on a notice slip in the first bill for the first year in everyone's envelope for all recreational boat slips, 20 to 50 feet. The annual billing will be at the non-taxpayer rate. To receive the 10% taxpayer discount credit, proof of Harwich property ownership, quote, current property tax bill along with any other supporting documents, end quote, must be submitted annually and received in the harbor master office by the deadline of December 1st.
That's
That will be on a slip.
That
will
reads
be,
better.
It's in here on the harbor management plan in appendix B, but when you look at the actual, that particular rate, it'll be at the 15%. It's confusing and I'm sorry, I think.
But it goes to that for the first year, but it stays that way
It will
for
stay
for those 5 consecutive
No.
years.
that rate will not change for
Correct.
the next.
Oh, you don't have to prove it every year.
You do have to
Yep.
prove it every year.
Okay,
You
so if
pay
you
your
don't
bill.
prove it, then it goes up to the higher rate. That's what you were just asking.
Well,
Or if you
No.
moved, like, say you move out of Harwich, you sell your home, and now
Now
you
you're
pay
a
your real estate
non-resident.
tax at your primary resident, your single primary residence in Dennis or something.
You're
Now
at
you're at
15%.
a non-taxpayer
Right.
rate. We're trying not to.
But
use
that
the
rate
full
isn't bumping up. It's gonna be at those two levels.
Right, but you kick to the higher level.
If you're a non-resident,
Would
yes.
you not show up by December 1st with proof of tax paying? In
I think
Harwich?
for $1,200, I think it's a lot of work, personally, but.
I think terminology wise, I would say you wouldn't
Well-
receive the discount any longer if we're trying to.
And that's not,
clarify.
that's not resident, it's taxpayer,
Taxpayer.
which is different.
Yeah,
It
you
is-
have you're a permanent
Sorry.
resident,
Yeah.
then you're, and
You
you're.
can-
Your tax
If,
rate.
if you own a house and come down to the house for 1 week out of the year, but you own a piece of property
You're
here,
a taxpayer.
you get
You're
the
a
taxpayer.
Taxpayer.
Yes.
You could
Not
never.
not a resident, you can't use the word resident.
I don't have resident.
You can't use the word resident?
No.
You shouldn't.
There's no resident.
No,
So
because
if-
people
That's a different
can just have a
classification.
secondary house here, come down here two weeks out of the year, still paying a tax bill.
You need kids in the school system, and you get 50% off. Slip. How's that?
But
Yes, I like
Right?
it.
How's
For a
that?
kid.
Yeah,
if,
this is-
Well,
if
this is-
you are.
Now we're making
if you
money.
are a
Now
legal
My
we're making
daughter
resident-
hasn't had kids yet.
If
No,
you're,
I'm saying
if you're a
technology here.
full-time resident of the town and you don't have a
No.
tax bill from the
I
town,
know.
you don't get the,
Correct,
if you like rent,
correct,
you don't get the discount.
correct.
So unless you own your own house that you're living in,
Property tax bill.
But because even if
What
you're,
if-
but if you're
another
renting, you
question,
still
then
don't
you're-
own
What
that
about-
property. So
what
that-
about,
This
what
isn't-
about, let me just
Oh.
put this up. What if I get my excise tax bill that shows that I'm getting excise tax for the state, for the town of Harwich?
Property,
property tax.
property ownership.
That's that's personal property.
This is residential property.
So I think that needs to be, because someone could come up and say, this is a property tax bill, it's personal property tax. Excise is,
Yeah,
Is
no,
a
that's a
property
good,
tax
that's a
bill.
good suggestion. Yeah, I'll do property tax on there.
because that's, a good lawyer could make
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And doesn't the town have a lawyer to look over this stuff, like the verbiage? Do we not have any?
Yeah, they always do.
Yeah, we do.
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
You wanna add more cost to it?
Well, we're already paying on it.
You're already paying them every year, right?
Just a quick question on this, you're gathering information from other towns, to get that, you had to call Falmouth somebody had to call Falmouth to get their information, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
called every department.
How many times has Falmouth called here to get our information to base their rates on us?
Pretty frequently.
I got a text like a month ago.
And now
For the same.
and now a lot of them are looking at doing rate increases.
Hmm.
Like,
I mean,
we don't call other businesses to,
I know.
to base our business.
Hey.
You know what you have to make, you know what you wanna make.
We,
and that's
yeah,
that.
we had in my 9 months being in this position, I've had
All right, I'm just
3
curious.
different
if that's
towns
that,
call
but-
me about to interpret, because our schedule of fees is pretty lengthy and we have a lot. So,
No, it's common practice to call around
Yeah.
and check other people's.
Well, maybe Marinas, I don't know if I can call my competitors, and be like, what's your labor rate at?
Well, you know your labor rate based on all your information, what you need to
Yeah.
do. That's-
Can I just
that's
ask one
the
question,
basic.
and I'm asking it not as a selectman, just a general question, just me. If you go up 5% the next year, like for example, the town's budget is going up 4.775%. You have businesses, your costs go up every year. I mean, health insurance for the town is 14 to 15%. For me, and even personally, my own bills, to go up 10% and leave it there for 5 years, which is in essence a 2% increase. And even somebody from the public brought this up. You're not even keeping pace with inflation. Now, I don't know, that's a good point about not making money.
Mhm.
That'd be a good question to ask and investigate. And I would say not just your operating costs, but to look at your capital costs too.
Right.
You know, to me, and again, just me speaking, when you go up for 5 years and it's a 2% per year, I mean, I don't know if that will cover your costs over that time. And I'm not asking you to redo what you've done, but to kind of exclude going up. If we haven't, you know, the town's gonna go up 4 or 5% this year. And it may go up, you know, the same thing next year too. So that's my only concern is, is that you won't go up enough to cover costs, whatever that may be, so that's just a thought I have. Nobody's costs stay at 2% per year, at least in the near-term future, but again, you don't have to redo everything you did. It may just mean you may want to revisit it before 5 years, so. And again, that's just me speaking.
I mean, that would be, for the committee, that would be much more than 10%. And I used, again, I grabbed the historical methodology.
Yeah, but history's not.
Yeah, but
history's not what it used to be.
No, but if you go on those premises, all right, so the town's gonna go up 5%. All right, well, what else is gonna go up? All right, the transfer plant's gonna go up. Everything's gonna go up. Who's gonna be able to afford to live here? We're getting squeezed as it is. So yeah, if we can take a little percentage back for us.
I think this shows a little bit of defending what I'm trying to do is keep a level set. This is actually with the increase. This is with the 5 and the 15 compared to other towns. I know you don't like that kind of compare other towns, but I'm trying to show you that while it may not be to the level as Mark is kind of discussing, at least at this juncture, at least at this request that I got, it was a bit short fused. I looked back at the history of what we've done. I did the analysis to see where we were, that we weren't going to skyrocket or leapfrog over other expectations or towns. I tried to keep us as level set as possible.
I'll go back to know what your expenses are. For your expenses going up more than 5% or more than 2%.
I know exactly what all my expenses are. Yeah,
right.
I know what my capital is too.
So in the department, if you know that you're going up 3.5%, 4%, your expenses will go up 4%, 5% a year. Like you said, electricity's going up, whatever it is. You gotta adjust the rates, for the income coming in to pay those bills. So you gotta go with the same rate.
And I think that's
water seeks its own level here. You gotta find
what
your
the
rate.
Mark said is that it may be revisited in a couple of years, but at this point,
Unless
January
we're generating
right now, at this
unless you're
public
generating
hearing,
more money than what you're spending, and you're throwing it back into the general fund.
Yes.
Well, when paying off the big project from Saquatucket for a couple years ago. There's a lot of that's going back into that. I thought there was something with any of the new funds since then, or any new.
No, it's only for the waterways. It was the waterways fees.
No, I thought after that project, new revenue was going to pay down
any new revenue that was created
after that project was
Mm-hmm.
done, went to pay it down.
I'm pretty sure it's not being funneled directly into a project, like revenue here in Harbor directly into a straight funnel.
It doesn't pay down the debt.
Harbor debt.
Yeah, no.
It goes into the general fund.
So I guess still, yet again, what plan do we favor?
Well, do we need to decide that tonight?
Well,
I think
we have to have a recommendation. They've got a meeting next Monday.
Next Monday.
Well, that's a public hearing. That's not.
Yes, but the selectmen want to hear what our thoughts are, and
I assume that they'll vote as well.
so they would like to hear our opinion on either we stay just a blanketed 10%, or we do the property
So that's
ownership
that's the
or
two
non-property
choices.
ownership. What's
It's
that?
A or B right now. We're voting on a blanketed 10% or voting on raise it 15%
Well, those are the two
and offer a 10%
Those are the
discount.
two proposals. in
It
front
is
of us.
just for moorings.
No, just for.
No,
So
just
just
for
for
slips.
slips.
The
No,
taxpayer versus
No,
non-taxpayer.
it's for everything, every bill.
Everything's going up.
It's
10%. The
Oh,
slips.
okay. Yeah,
48 out of 64. Yeah.
I got you.
There's some fees I can't touch, like ramp.
I don't think. I think the fact that the fees have to go up is not the question. It's the question is how. The question is do you want to offer? Do we want to recommend offering taxpayers a discount on their slip fees only?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, there you go.
So I'm gonna go back to, we still don't know what the expenses are in the department, do we? And that's, on one of these graphs in here, is it what your expenses are versus what your income is? That way, we're voting to vote a rate, one process or another process, but we don't know
I mean,
we don't know the other half of the equation, which is expenditures, or what, I mean, I don't know.
expenditures, there's two types of buckets there. There's the expenditures, like, well, there's several buckets, but if you look at our capital plan, that's public. I can bring that in, actually, you know many of those projects that are gonna be forthcoming, Herringbrook River Boat Ramp, Allen Harbor jetty replacement, Saquatucket bulkhead repair. I mean, these are all in the millions, so to say the generation and revenue, and then you take into kind of operating costs, things of that sort. Dredging is gonna be an article this year that I push forward. Hopefully it gets voted on and approved at town meeting, but that's gonna be a $500,000 a year article, so I don't know if
No, I don't wanna delay the project, again, it's part, I don't know, I guess is, cause we have no regulatory, we have no authority, absolutely no authority, well, we are as an advisory committee.
That's all we
That's
have.
all we ever been.
Whether we vote yes or no, whatever process.
They're gonna do whatever they want.
They're gonna do whatever they want. We don't really carry any weight. Yeah, they're gonna say,
I'm
well,
gonna say I don't want a price increase.
they reviewed it, they
Yeah.
liked
How's
it, but
that? Doesn't matter.
We can come back with that recommendation.
Yeah, I don't want a price increase, cause it doesn't matter. But then the question is, they'll just go 20%.
So then we
limit it
can,
to 2%.
then we have a slight say. I mean,
That's what happened last time, cause, you know, we didn't want price increases, but we had to give them something.
I mean, it's.
I mean, the numbers, the percentages and everything, but the process of offering a resident discount. Just the process, forget the numbers, cause we don't really know.
Right.
If it should be 10%, 20%, 15%, we don't know that.
Yeah.
But the process of offering, having a rate increase up to one level and then having a buyback, whatever you wanna call it, a buy down verification of residency, then you get a discount. That's what we're gonna vote on, is the process. But we're gonna support that
No,
process.
we're gonna support either that, we're gonna support that plan, or we're gonna support a blanketed 10% across the board. We're not gonna separate if you have owned property in this town.
Well, then in the past, whenever we're sitting here voting on other things, we not defer, but we ask what the recommendation from the harbor matter, what would you like to see?
Yeah, what works?
both presentations equal the same revenue, so.
Okay. If the net is the net.
In this circumstance, I'm presenting information.
Right.
Well, as a taxpayer and resident of Harwich, I think it would be in the taxpayers' interest to take the 5% or take the 10% discount. And
yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that would
That's gonna satisfy the locals.
satisfy.
Well,
Sure it will.
Well, we're all.
That's right.
We all volunteer committees. We put our time
It's
in.
like raising the prices,
What's that?
to show you that there's not as much.
We all put our time in, right? Committees and get everything. So I think I think a discount.
So is that the recommendation? For
Yeah,
the
so-
Let's take a vote.
Let's take a motion
I'll make
or
a
a
motion that we
recommendation.
that the Waterways Committee supports the Harbor Masters proposal of a process of a rate increase of.
No, don't use it.
Well,
no
no.
numbers.
No. Yeah, no,
Whatever number he puts at it,
What is
with
it?
the process of,
Bifurcated?
with the process of
Taxpayer,
just-
non-taxpayer.
We just do the
resident,
for
resident
bifurcated.
discount.
Plan for,
Yeah.
yes.
With a substantial resident discount.
Is there, Dan, cause for, more validity reasons,
Mm-hmm.
would you mind putting that into like an email and just sending it to me? And that way-
Like,
Yep.
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first off, Ken made the motion. I need a second.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Aye,
All right.
Yep. These are the guys that
You
make
live or
the
die
motion.
by it, you do it.
Yeah,
You're on the hook.
I mean,
I've never heard of a guy make
do you
a
want
motion and
the
then
whole
vote against it.
meeting, or do you
No,
just?
just that statement,
Kind of
Okay.
weird.
that statement, if you could just send it to me in email. And
Sure.
then Mark, that will suffice for reporting out to the select board.
I think if you just say you took a vote.
Okay.
But I'll send that.
I'll take the statement.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for everyone's concerns and questions, and
group?
I'm
Thanks for being here.
available all the
No,
time if you guys wanna come down and talk about it more. And I can show you
I'm on your side.
more
No one else
data.
I'm on your
All right,
side.
well, hang on. We still, there's no correspondence.
No.
All right, next meeting is Wednesday, February 18th.
Love it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Second. All in favor?
All right, Larry
Aye.
and Ken. All right, all in favor?
Hi.
All right.
Alright, let's tackle, what are we tackling next, school committee?
Finance.
You don't wanna go there.
No.
You don't wanna go there. You have kids in school?
Yes.
Yeah.
One way there.